Hi and welcome to Blue Sky Bonsai. I'm Dave and in this episode we're going to be doing some winter pruning. Let's get straight to it. It's now mid-December and you can see clearly that the evergreens have kept their foliage, but most or all of the deciduous trees have lost their leaves. Here you can see various different deciduous trees that I'm just fattening up in their large garden pots. And there are a couple of pines and some evergreen oaks. If you've been waiting to remove a major branch, then winter is an ideal time to do it. Especially for a deciduous tree, because all of the sap, all of the energy has gone down the trunk, down to the roots, to the base of the trunk, and is stored away for the winter dormant period. So you can do some major tree surgery to the branches or to the trunk. Come spring, all of that energy, all of the sap will go up again and pop out new buds without any problem. The same is true of coniferous trees like junipers and pines. Although they keep their foliage, they do go dormant in the winter period. So it's a good time to prune major branches then if you need to. And this is the Trident Maple that I'm going to be working on today. Now it's mostly just tidy up work after a much more severe pruning last winter, but I've also got to prune down some of those long taperless branches, and I also want to reduce the whole crown area so that it doesn't become more vigorous than the lower branches. I repotted this Trident back in March. Look at those fantastic healthy roots. Trident maples are a really great species for bonsai, and because they grow so very vigorously they tend to fatten up quicker than lots of other species of tree. However, something to keep in mind is that with such vigorous root growth you really need to repot them every year. Looking pretty good shape. Still got a massive carving here that I did last winter, still got to heal over. It's fine, it's doing great. What I do have here is a side branch, and it's kind of going up and coming round and then coming right round here. So I used a guy wire to pull it down. Let's just get the guy wire off now. But really, I think this branch should go. I think it should go just here, because then it'll leave this nice little twig and it'll be a very lovely taper. I think that'll leave a very nice branch, so we'll do that now. I'm cutting just a small distance from where I want to actually leave the final cut. So we'll leave it like this year. So that heals over during the year, and then tidy that up next year. Now the idea here, this is the second year of this cut, so I'm going to leave it as flush as possible, and after another couple of years start looking just like a normal branch forking out there. So if you want to know the best or safest way to prune a major branch, we need to start by looking at what's going on inside the branch. Now if you've seen my video on ensuring cuttings take root, you might recognise some of these pictures, but we're going to go a bit further here. So inside the bark you have the phloem, which is largely glucose photosynthesised from the leaves, and inside that you have the xylem, which is the tree's tiny veins taking water and sap up the tree. This is sometimes referred to as the tree's cambium layer. Now look at what happens to all that water and sap flow around a branch. All the veins are arranged so that both stems give and take their fair share. Now underneath the branches of older trees you'll see this flange or collar. That collar contains a store of the tree's growth regulators and natural defence chemicals. Now keep that in mind while we talk about the different types of branch pruning. First, let's take a look at a flush cut where we use some concave branch cutters to prune right down into the base of the branch. Now this is perfectly fine as a technique for tiny branches and new shoots, But it's not the best way for larger, older branches, and here's why. For one thing, if you cut right through that branch collar, it means there's no defence zone left on the junction of the branch. And secondly, flush cuts create an extra area of deadwood above and below the cut itself. The larger wound dies back further at the top and bottom, and that gives you the telltale ugly oval shape as the tree calluses around the edge of the wound. Now let's look at the healthier alternative, which is a stub cut, also known as a collar cut. Try to keep that flange collar intact because that provides a natural barrier against pathogens. So make a clean straight cut some distance away from the trunk or from the parent branch. So then you have that stub visible for a year after your pruning, which some people might object to, I guess because once the branch is gone they don't want to see any sign that it was there. However, in my opinion, bonsai should not be rushed and we should be preserving the health of our trees. Also, if you're doing this on a coniferous tree, that stub could provide a really nice deadwood feature in the future. But if you do want to get rid of that stub, then a year later the trunk or the parent branch would have healed itself, and at that time you really can do a flush cut without damaging the health of the tree. And then another year or two later, that wound would have healed itself over much more smoothly than if you just left the deep flush cut in the first place. And if you don't want to take my word for it, just consider for a moment that when you buy a developing tree from a commercial bonsai nursery, they nearly always have stub cuts on them and almost never flush cuts. And that, my friends, is no coincidence. It's because they have to conserve the health of the tree so they can sell it. Now going right up to the top here, there's just too much going on up there. So let's sort that out a little bit. This one. This one up here is kind of competing with the main highest one. You can see I'm going to take this wire off. This wire is there, just holding them apart. Not doing any good in winter. Now multiple little shoots and buds coming out of the same point, so got to make a decision. What do we keep? We get rid of the one that is here going towards the main leader. And you can see inside it's deadwood. Now I'm very tempted to get rid of this middle branch. It's kind of right in the middle of two others. It's sort of above this first big branch. I'm undecided. If there's a chance I might want to keep it on in the future and use this in the future, best not to chop it now, because once you chop it there's no way back. What I think I will do though is just get rid of this large part of it to tide it up, so it's just a couple of smaller shoots coming out this side. And then again I'm going to tidy up that stub a bit next year. There's already some deadwood there I can just get rid of. Now the other thing, I'm going to start tidying this one up. This is another chop from last year. So let's get right down into the wood here. So here, the idea is to turn what was a huge fat branch with an ugly stub on the end, gradually carving it down little by little over the last 2 years into more of a taper, and then it'll take another probably 2 years to heal over to a better looking tapering branch as the bark heals over that wound. And now what we're left with is what was a very fat branch with an ugly stub, and now it's got some nice taper. I've got a few more winter pruning videos coming very soon, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.